Okay, today on the Ragening, we are going to cover Kate Brooks' address of the Oxford Union Society. The Union is apparently the world's most prestigious debating society, and the motion before the House is that the House believes that the right to free speech always includes the right to offend. And Kate Brooks is apparently going to take the opposite stance. The stance of censorship against free speech.
Which I, for one, find rather offensive. Hence the reality-bending paradox already.
And I do this because, well, Mike has booze, and I have strategic use of fiction, of applying fiction to things in reality. Like just deciding that certain aspects of reality are actually fiction. That this is not being advanced seriously, this is actually a performance piece. That's my coping mechanism. It may sound psychotic.
No, I have that one too. If there's a coping mechanism out there, I've probably tried it. I know all the motherboard shortcuts.
But we all need some coping mechanisms. So this is fiction. That's why I'm classifying it as performance art, thus media, thus entirely within the purview of us to criticize on the Ragening. Let's begin.
Okay, we're going to take a look at this snapshot here. I swear, right, a couple of 100 years from now, everyone will look at tableaus like this next to the fine art from centuries before, and they will marvel at what was going on in the heads of the 21st century West. Saying, were you people really that dense? Did it seriously not occur to you that women were the superior class? Look at how they dress, look at how they hold themselves. The men all look like they're going to a funeral for a penguin, and the women are dressed like Henry the fucking VIII. And they lord over their subjects with the pomp and grandiosity of a medieval king. And if you were to ask Henry the VIII, Henry, why do you wear those billowing garments and those colourful tights and those flamboyant mini rah-rah skirts? Then Henry would reply, because the peasants demand I dress this way. I am nobility. All my life I've been socialised into being an object, to be stared at, to be decorated. I don't make myself look like this to manipulate others. I have to make myself look like this because I'm being manipulated by others. Oh, but also I wear what I choose to wear, and only because it feels good, and you can't tell me not to. But I'm not manipulating people, they're manipulating me. But I choose it. But I have no choice because I'm a victim. But I choose to be a victim. And it's not to my benefit, it's to the benefit of others, that's why I choose it. Is that clear? Right. I'm going to eat a wild hog and invade France. Now, of course, Henry wouldn't actually say any of that. He'd just think it in an instant. All he would need to say is, off with your head, how dare you slut-shame the king?
Peter and Brendan stood up here and complained.
All right, stop right there. You have the most irritating voice, and that's not just an ad hominem. It's like, if you're going to step out in front of people, doesn't it behoove you to actually modulate your tones so they don't want to stab their eardrums with a freaking screwdriver? All right, let's...
That other students, people like Tim and me, are engaged in a discourse of censorship, that we want to silence them. I mean, funny, you don't seem very silenced.
What? Just because people exist in a space doesn't mean that they're not being censored.
Yeah, I don't know what to call this kind of fallacy, but it's a little bit like saying, if there was a Holocaust, why are there still Jews? You all look pretty ungassed to me. Or if that analogy is disqualified by Godwin, how about if humans evolved from apes, why are there still apes? Yeah, your divine ignorance goes all the way down, your ladyship.
I mean, I'm sure that the peasants who were serving the royalty at court, while being actually present in that space, still couldn't say what they really felt and believed. Or they might get dragged off and hung.
I promise you, we both independently came up with a royals versus peasants analogy. It's a coincidence, but it's a fairly likely one. The imagery here is rather palpable, you must admit. Incidentally, Alison, the term is hanged. Dragged off and hung is something very different. Oh, me.
For a start, you're here. For a second, you still have your national newspaper columns. Apparently, I don't read them, but people tell me they're still out there.
Some top-notch research you've done there, Ms. Brooks. I wonder if I'm going to have to come back to that clip later.
Are these people all writing for national newspaper columns? Do they all get published in these columns? Like, is every single person here able to write a column? Maybe there's some context I'm missing.
Yes, the context is all white men have newspaper columns. All white men benefit from the existence of newspaper columns, and nobody else does. All white men benefit from the existence of society, and nobody else does. Because Ms. Brooks says so. You don't need to actually read what anyone's writing. All we know for sure is white men need tough love, and everyone else needs mollycoddling love. Because everyone knows leadership is born from mollycoddling.
So, what you're really saying is that, not that we're trying to silence you, but that we have the audacity to try and erode the platform that our racist and misogynistic society has given to two privileged white men.
Censorship of those groups that you've identified as the bad people is good.
That is what we are guilty of doing.
That is what we are guilty of doing. Okay. Got to establish that.
What you are saying is you...
What you are saying, Kate, is fuck all. You're just telling other people what they're saying. That's what you think debating is. Replacing other people's thoughts with your own lies and hatred. When someone says, I am not a misogynist, you go, nope, that's not what you're saying. What you're saying is you are a misogynist. Because that's the only debate I prepared for. It has never occurred to me at any point in my flailing education that any given person on Earth is not a misogynist. And it never will occur to me. Because then I would have to argue against people, against actual human beings, rather than arguing against the floating psychedelic holograms of closet skeletons in my head. You're a fucking nutter, Brooks. That is what I'm saying. And I get to say it!
What you are saying is you personally have a right to that platform, which other people are not given. That you personally should maintain hegemony over that platform.
But that is absolutely, totally not what you're saying.
What we are saying is move the hell over.
Hegemony.
Other people deserve that platform. Other people who are not white, who are not men.
Far be it from me to point out the obvious here, but you, Kate Brooks, are white. Oh, but she qualifies.
And who are not of the people that you call privileged.
No, I think you're the one who's calling them privileged. And you're the one who has decided that these people who you put into the class of privilege, and incidentally, just a little bit of background, people who research the kind of propaganda that precipitates violence, particularly genocide, the word privilege is actually something that precipitates discrimination against the target group. So in other words, if you want to discriminate or practice violence against a target group, you paint them as privileged. Privilege is a really powerful word. It's a trigger word, and it's a trigger for generating violence against a group that you call privileged. She seems to like that word a lot.
And it's not just the word privilege, by the way. It's very much the concept it describes. Just to stay in the English language, the same concept is described as entitlement, advantage, original sin, and so on. Of course, when it happens to the other, it's privilege. When it happens to us, it's oppression. whatever the term, it always has its nominated antonym, chambered, to break glass in case of wrong think. See, a century ago, when the father was legally the default parent, that was male privilege and female oppression, even though it was his responsibility to pay for them. Nowadays, now that the mother is legally the default parent, what do you suppose that is? It's still male privilege and female oppression. Even though it's the taxpayer's responsibility to pay for them. Who pays the taxes, Mike? I think it might be the people who earn the most money. Shit! But let's not forget. Men don't have responsibilities. Because that's a good sounding word. So it belongs to women. When women are expected to take care of something, that's responsibility with which they are burdened. When men are expected to take care of something, that's privilege and pathology and patriarchy. And both of these things are, of course, misogyny. Another popular one, of course, is the one Kate broke out just now, hegemony. When we do it, it's leadership. When they do it, it's hegemony. So we get to be bossy and they still don't. It is fucking hilarious how that works, don't you think?
Move over, and in order to do that, you have to create a space where those people can actually enter into that discourse.
So we're not telling, this is, your argument isn't to get other people in and have their voices in the conversation. Your argument is to remove the voices of certain people. So how does the voices, how does giving or granting white men the right to speak stop other people from speaking? Because it sounds like you simply are using privilege, and correctly too, because this is how it has been used in the past to remove the rights of people who are cast in the privilege mold. You're using that to remove white men's ability to speak, not to grant other people the ability to speak.
What I want to talk about, oh no thank you, is the discourse of...
What just happened? Seriously, what the fuck? Drawn as I am to the schadenfreude of watching Peter Hitchens get owned like a street urchin, this is starting to look like they're taking our analogy of peasants in the royal court and they're actually running with it. It's getting surreal. You must know that. It's about censorship and you are not letting your opponent speak.
The discourse of hypocrisy.
Let me guess. When other people do it, it's hypocrisy. When you do it, it's equality. Oh, you get your first head desk, milady. You suck!
Because when they stand up here and say that they're engaged in free speech and they want free speech for everyone, they are actively denying the discourse of censorship that they are involved in.
You have had a minute and a half to speak, and you have not made a single accusation that does not stick to yourself. This is not even throat-clearing. This is not even hand-wringing. It is not even fat-chewing. It is nothing but shit-sprinkling.
Brendan, when he refuses to recognise trans people's preferred pronouns and actively misgenders them in his national newspaper columns, is engaged in a discourse of censorship. He is saying, this is language to which I object. People calling themselves she when I think they are male is a language to which I object.
Okay, I'm not going to touch that one.
I am. With my slippery button-pushing appendages.
These white men. They are genders to which I object. People calling themselves white men, when I think they are privileged, is a racist and misogynistic society to which I object. I'm not going to recognise these white men, and I'm going to say that it is wrong. Not that we're trying to silence you.
So to summarise, Kate, it is unacceptable to disagree with someone's terminology, but it is perfectly, elementarily acceptable to disagree with someone's race and gender. Well, okay then. White women are all insecure, neurotic, bossy cunts, and we should replace them with Asian women. But we're not censoring you, we're just replacing you. Stop oppressing my language.
That is engaging in a discourse of censorship. It's also so arrogant to engage in that discourse when you are not a stakeholder in it. It matters nothing to you whether or not a trans person chooses to identify in whatever way.
And it matters not to you whether a person is white and male. Oh wait, yes it does! You just haven't lifted the slightest fucking finger to explain why it matters to you, or why it should matter to anyone else. You don't have a reason to be prejudiced against white men. You don't need a reason to be prejudiced against white men. You just feel it in your bones, right? You just know, deep down, intuitively, that white men are bad. That sensation has a name in almost every language, Kate. And in English, it rhymes with your name.
When you write that a discourse of Islam is what causes Muslim men to rape, you are engaged in a discourse of censorship.
Okay, this one I will touch.
I think you better had. I'm gonna get a drink of the finest bacon wine.
When you create a discourse of toxic masculinity is what causes men to rape, then you are engaging in a discourse of censorship. You know what, Kate Brooks, I don't think you want to go there. I don't think you want to step into that ring. No.
You are saying that the discourse of Islam is something that is wrong, something that should not be allowed, something that you object to. Yeah, go for it.
Is it not true that to have a different opinion isn't the same as telling other people that they shouldn't have or they can't have that opinion?
Absolutely not! No!
I just love the supercilious. Absolutely not. Oh no, peasant. No. Nay! Jesus Christ. You embody the very essence of pompousness.
I just got in. Why are they applauding? Did she just do a teapot dance? Lol. I timed it, Kate. It's 30 seconds. 30 solid seconds of applause. That's showstopper material. That's climax noise. There's more than enough for a wank. From scratch, Kate. From scratch.
Let me tell you how a difference of opinion would work.
How a difference of opinion would work? So you're telling people how they can disagree? What? Who appointed you?
A difference of opinion would be for Peter to say, I am not a Muslim, but others can be. That is a difference of opinion. A difference of opinion is for Brendan to say that I am not someone who is a transsexual, but other people, if they are, that is something that I respect. That is difference of opinion.
And for you to say, I am not someone who is white and male, but other people were born white and male, and I object to that! That's not just a difference of opinion, Kate. That is you being racist and sexist. A lot of people have listened to you now, Kate, and most of them will go away thinking you're stupid. But I don't think you're stupid. I don't think stupidity is the thing that blinds you. People blinded by stupidity are generally unable to even talk properly. Those teggers out in the street going, we don't like Islamic laws being all Islamic and our laws and that. They are blinded by stupidity. What blinds you is hatred. And you got all the way to Oxford on this hatred. And why wouldn't you? No one taught you not to. I mean, children, before they even get in school, are taught the tall tale that a long time ago, boys were treated as more valuable than girls. It's a lie. It's a heartless, damaging lie, and it's just left there to fester, leaving boys feeling guilty and girls feeling wronged in ways they're never able to articulate. And nowhere in our scholastic infrastructure will anyone be taught that hating men is bad too. Very far from it indeed. The further we get into higher education, the more religiously the message is pushed home that hating men is not only acceptable, it is positively the right thing to do. So is it any wonder Kate, that you are not interested in uniting the pieces on this board. Your only goal is to take down the White King. So it's just as well that all you're capable of doing to the White King is burying him in a landslide of pigeon shit.
And I'm going to talk to you exactly why this engages in this discourse of censorship. Fundamentally, the purpose of free speech is an instrumental good.
Okay, I sense the oncoming explanation why no one should have free speech. An instrumental good?
It's not like, because if you're saying something to yourself in your room, it's meaningless. It's about creating meaning for societal change. So what Brendan wanted to talk about when he was like, lags, mags, that's equal to what Shelley did. I mean, whatever.
Do you know where Shelley wrote things? To himself in his room.
But the purpose then is to further democracy. It's to say, be able to challenge power and to be able to speak truth to power.
Before you can speak truth to power, you need two things. Do you know what those two things are, Kate? Yes, you do. That's why you feel no obligation to actually establish anything. You already know who has the truth and who has the power. I'm going to take a proverbially wild proverbial stab in the very much proverbial dark and say the answer is you have the truth and white men have the power. And that you are not even a crumb interested in debating the legitimacy of that position, Ms. Brooks. You have already stepped over that axiom without a care in the world, like you've pile-drived a juggernaut through a toll bridge, brandishing your middle finger all the way. Now you're simply here to proclaim that you have no power and your opponents have no truth. Therefore, you get to tell everyone what to do. I'm glad I have the GoPro now, Kate, because I actually get to give you the finger you deserve. Behold the finger! Behold it, Kate! Are you beholding the finger? This finger has exactly as much rational gravitas as your entire brain, Miss Brooks. And it's doing things! Look at the things! Look at the things it's doing! Behold the things, the finger things! Behold your eternal love for the finger things!
It's not about being able to shut other people out. And the problem is that the platform at the moment isn't equal. It's not the case that we all have the same privileges, that we all have the same access to national newspaper columns, that we are all listened to. I mean, the fact that we're all here and so privileged and other people are not invited demonstrates that there's an act of privileging people when you give them a platform.
You're there. I mean, I hate to point out the obvious in your incredibly purple dress. You are there. And you are the center of attention.
And the problem is that when you engage in the discourse that these men do, when you say that other people are lesser, that their choices are lesser, and those are the people that are least privileged in those society, that is when they are unable to engage in our discourse. What we want to do on our side is to even the platform, and to say if you need to do that, you can't engage in racist language, and you can't engage in sexist language. That's something we're okay with, because we think the voice of ethnic minorities and women is more important than the right of these men to be misogynistic and racist.
Okay, all right. Do you realize you're just step back here. You talked about hypocrisy. You just said the discourse that Muslim ideology encourages Muslims to rape silences Muslims, censors Muslims. So what you are saying here is that is exactly the same. You are demonizing a group of people. Now, I'm not going to get into an argument on Islamophobia. But you are demonizing a group of people just like these individuals demonizing Muslims. You're doing the same thing. Are you then censoring them?
That's something we incredibly stand for on our side.
Excellent use of the term incredibly. Yeah, nice. Drink those male tears. Get them down here.
Okay, so you're not a sexist. So lads mags aren't sexist.
Okay, maybe I need to belabor the point. You have just said that implicating a group in a negative action censors that group. Now you're just doing that. You're saying that whoever consumes lad mags are frickin' sexist. Are you censoring them? Or just having an opinion? I mean, what are the rules here? What's the structure? Where are you going with this? You get to do it. You get to implicate people. You get to decide what is disagreement and what isn't. You get to decide who gets to have an opinion and which opinions are silencing other opinions. It sounds very suspiciously like you are setting yourselves up as the autocrat, the diviner, the decision maker on who gets to speak. I thought we were trying to get away from that.
The problem is that these men have the ability to denigrate people within their national newspaper columns. They can say that trans people are lesser, that their choices are lesser, that ethnic minorities shouldn't be welcomed in our society. No, thank you. But other people don't have the ability to denigrate them in the same way.
You are denigrating them now! And not only that, you are trying to say they don't have the right to speak at all!
We're fucking on your corpse, Kate.
An unemployed black trans woman does not have the ability to reply to Brendan O'Neill in a national newspaper column.
Yes, they do. No one's going to stop them. But I'm going to hazard a guess that unemployed black trans women make up less than 1% of the population. Behold, ladies and gentlemen, if an ordinary professional victim is the equivalent of a rifleman, then this here is a fucking sniper. Henry VIII here can stand up there and lock her crosshairs on the rarest combination of politically popular identity properties she can think of. And despite having blatantly never met anyone of that description, or even anyone matching two of those criteria, she can climb inside that ghoul of her own creation and shower seductively in the fucking ectoplasm of everlasting victimhood. See, once upon a time, we relied on a thing you might call the cult of us. Many social species, if not most, maybe all social species, rely on a thing you might call the cult of us. And the thing about the cult of us is it can involve a necessary them, but it doesn't have to. A cult of us can evolve into one that does not need a them. Us can evolve into everything. Here's Tom with the weather, and so on. And in case you were thinking of going there, a cult of he would be about an actual he, not an imaginary he. An imaginary he is just a paranormal medium for a cult of us. Whereas a cult of she would sound a little bit something like this.
Moreover, she is incredibly less likely to do so when that national newspaper column creates a discourse in a world that she is not welcome, that her choices are not welcome, and that she is not respected.
You know, I have certain empirical contradiction pins in my model of reality, and as a result, I've never really understood what a hate fuck is. At least not on this side of the screen.
But probably more explicable when we have a president who thinks it's acceptable to invite Marine Le Pen. Sorry, Lisa.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. But it clearly fell flatter than a flat-out, flat-broke pancake person who believes in a flat earth theory. And actually lives on a flat earth. He's a sentient pancake person, what do you expect? Waffles. Ooh, I want waffles.
We want to create an atmosphere on our side where we actually have all people have freedom of speech.
No. What I'm hearing is that you want certain people to have freedom of speech. And you want to preside over the selection of those people.
And that has to be facilitated by a welcoming atmosphere. And the problem is that offence actively perpetuates censorship of marginalised groups. Why? Because the lads mags that Brendan wants to talk about are the things that perpetuate a discourse that women's voices in the public sphere are less worthy.
Okay, whoa. We just launched into hyperspace here and we popped out somewhere completely different. You went from Muslims minorities and trans people not having a voice in the public sphere to suddenly women not having a voice. But I'm afraid that I don't actually believe that that's true. Are you saying there are no women writing for national magazines? What about you? You're a white woman boliviating in the front of a whole audience of white people? How does that change? And there's the rub. Here is the rub. This entirely privileged creature is co-opting the disenfranchisement of other groups to skin it and turn it into a tailor-made clothes of victimhood that she can then wear, even though she is perfectly privileged in every conceivable way. She gets to don the cloak of her stolen victimhood. And nobody calls her out on it. How did we pop out on this? I mean, women weren't even involved. There was a trans woman who's being degendered because people don't like men taking on the role of women, period. And they're extremely violent and unpleasant in their dislike of that. And that's how they see it. They don't want to give this woman the deference that they don't think she deserves because she has a penis. That has nothing to do with you, vagina bearer. Nothing. Nor does any of the disenfranchisement of minorities have to do with you, who is so white, you reflect the fucking light like a mirror. Okay, let's move on.
It's the sexist discourses that you get in large magazines which create the atmosphere in which men think it's legitimate to tell women who publish on the internet, to tell women journalists and women politicians that their voices are less meaningful.
You see, this is the payload. We start with groups of people who are genuinely marginalized from mainstream society. Trans people, Muslims, people, minorities. We start with those groups, and then suddenly we go into the feminist fucking wormhole and we pop out with white women. This is like any other form of colonization throughout history. The people with the power get the goods, and she has the power, therefore she gets the goods. And now we're talking about women. Oy vey. And also, I will add, she's just gone through saying that implicating a group of people with this, I'm sure she's going to start saying that toxic masculinity leads to rape, harass. Somehow, it's bad when this other guy says, Muslim teachings, Islamic teachings, this, toxic Musliminity, toxic Islam. Let's call it toxic Islam. Toxic Islam causes rape. But no. She's going to say toxic masculinity causes rape. This sounds more like two idiots are battling over the same bullshit, the same hill of bullshit. They want to reign supreme over the toxic X causes rape narrative. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like the competition. But okay, admittedly, I'm jumping the gun. Maybe she's not going to implicate toxic masculinity as responsible for the sexual abuse of women. Let's find out.
Meaningful to sexualize and denigrate the appearance of women.
Okay, so someone says that toxic Islam causes rape. Now that is censoring Muslims, according to her. She's saying that toxic masculinity embodied by lad culture causes men to sexualize women and censor women's voices, or women's voices get somehow censored in all of this.
And this is the thing that stops women from speaking out, stops women being on the internet.
Well, I'm appearing with two of them right now. And I'm ambivalent about that. Like, straight down the middle ambivalent. At the moment, white women are something I can take or leave. I think you all know what I mean.
This is the thing that creates Gamergate.
Gamergate? What?
You should have brought waffles, Alison.
Where men think it is legitimate to threaten women with violence if they don't shut up.
all the coping mechanisms. All of them.
And this is the discourse to which you are actively participating.
It's just like we're going through a fucking war. We're just stretching out, like doing the whole space stretching thing into the wormhole. Doom! Women are victimized. Another wormhole. Suddenly Gamergate. Another wormhole. Suddenly hypocrisy and silencing and fucking violence against what's like.
And that is the problem. It means that all of these people whose voices should be heard in a principle of freedom of speech are not heard. I'll take you now.
All right. And once again, I have to point out that we started with people, minorities with legitimate issues, and she has now sucked the air out of the room and made it all about women, specifically all about white women such as herself, because you'll notice that's the ones who are doing the complaining.
No PR.
Yes,
Go
indeed.
for it.
Yeah, you said at the beginning that you didn't read our columns, and it's absolutely evident from what you've said this evening that you don't.
Okay. So,
Now we see why you wouldn't let him speak. Because it takes him all of 5 seconds to bring your fucking house down. It's because you built your house on the head of a pin, m'lady, and your house is made of wank. Fuck off.
don't worry, I do my research.
Don't worry, I actually didn't mean what I just said in the beginning.
And the thing I'm referring to is when Peter Hitchens said about the rapes that had occurred in Oxford, that obviously the fact that these were Muslims was important, because if you engage in a discourse where you think of other people as infidel and think of other people as lesser, that makes you more likely to be a rapist.
Oh, you just said that! You just fucking said that, lady! You just said the toxic masculinity that makes, supposedly, allegedly, according to you, who apparently does extensive research, toxic masculinity makes men think of women as lesser, as sex objects, and that encourages rape. You've just, again, I get the undeniable feeling that we have, what we are witnessing here is two freaking whatever having a standoff over the same goddamn fucking emotional territory. In other words, implicating cultural norms of particular groups of people as responsible for rape.
That's why Muslims are more likely to be rapists.
This is just, they're essentially pecking at each other. They're trying to puff their feathers up and say, no, this is my territory.
Exactly what you said.
That's exactly the same logic you used to say why men are likely to be rapists. Okay, it's exactly the same logic. You just don't like the fact that whoever's writing this shit is honing in on your territories. They don't have the right gang colors on. Apparently your gang colors are purple.
Where? When?
2013. Look it up. You wrote it. Google it.
Oh, hello again. This is where, once again, I have to thank Mr. Turing and all the followers of his footsteps and the shoulders on which he stood. Take it away, engine room!
Your national newspaper columns, apparently. I don't read them. I don't read them. I don't read them.
Is your body ready?
Don't worry, I do my research. I don't read them. I don't read them. Apparently, I don't read them. But people tell me they're still out there.
Where? When?
You wrote it. Apparently, I don't read them. Look it up. I don't read them. Look it up. I don't read them. Google it. I don't read them. Don't worry, I do my research. Apparently, obviously I did my research before the break. That's just moronic to say that I didn't. Don't read them. Don't read them. Don't read them. Don't read them. Check it yourself. Don't read them. Obviously I did. Don't read them. Obviously I did. Don't read them. Obviously I did. Don't read them. Obviously I did my research before the break. That's just moronic to say that I didn't. Should remember. Don't read them. Should remember. Don't read them. Should remember. Don't read them. Should remember what you write, especially when it's that offensive.
Hopefully by now all you can hear is the glockenspiel in my head.
The reason why this discourse is so instrumental in perpetuating violence is obvious. Because apartheid doesn't make any sense if people aren't engaged in a discourse of racism. It would collapse under its own ridiculousness. It has to be buttressed by that discourse.
What's apartheid, Kate? Is that why you create separate spaces for black people?
Homophobic attacks make no sense without a discourse that legitimizes homophobia, without playing into that discourse and being part of that conversation.
Wouldn't a homophobic attack still be a homophobic attack?
Transphobic attacks make and all of the trans women and trans men who die in this country and other countries makes no sense without the discourse that Brendan O'Neill specifically perpetuates when he refuses to recognise their chosen gender identity.
Look, I realise, plenty of trans people face plenty of unique challenges, but is death one of them? Given how many people die, even how many people die because of their identity. I imagine some people are killed for being trans, but some people are killed because of the football team they support. And some people are killed because they are conscripted into war. That escalated very quickly, Kate, and very, very severely. Any of that matter?
Islamophobic attacks in the UK make absolutely no sense without a discourse of Islamophobia, without the discourse that Peter Hitchens himself perpetuates.
Misandry makes no sense without the discourse that toxic masculinity.
Sorry to do this, Alison, but I'm gonna have to clip you up so that the lady understands you better.
Misandry makes no sense.
Yeah, we forgot to start the argument at the moat. We neglected to answer the beast. It's questions 3. Misandry don't real, Alison. Islamophobia do real. Because men are not a protected class. But God is. And so are women.
What we want is freedom of speech.
What?
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding an appropriate prop. I think somewhere between the cigarette and the waffles, I sort of peaked.
What are you saying here? You don't want freedom of speech. You want to privilege certain people. And you do it based on some sort of weird calculus of who is less privileged and therefore should be more privileged. And usually, somehow, it skips over minorities, Muslims, trans people. It just lands squarely on white women. Somehow.
Oh, hang on, I found something.
And we want freedom of speech for everyone. And unfortunately, that means we're going to have to get these guys to shut up for a while and give the platform to someone else.
You're a pencil-neck fat horse. Moron, you cockroach like rectum feeder crap ass. Head nuts. Eat bottom. Num num num. Head. Goofy looking head. Num num num. You make me puke your own crap in hell.
Honey badger rips the face off the puppet master, chews it out like a honey bastard, spit it out into your copy pasta. The honey badger